Hello everybody and welcome back to the Two Norries podcast. I'm your host James and I'm joined as always by my good friend Timmy Long.
Hi everyone.
A friend of ours, Brian O Donovan from Limerick City, Kate, is in the hot seat today. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's nice to be here. It's a privilege to be asked. I know that you want stuck for it. You know, I know that I have a story.
Yeah.
And I suppose it is a privilege to be able to sit here, this side of it, what I have experienced and what I'm experiencing today as well. Because like it doesn't, as I mentioned a few times on your podcast, like this is an ongoing process. Like there's no destination.
Yeah.
You know, so I do feel that it's right for me to do this today.
It's good to have you here because the first time me and Timmy ever spoke in public, did any bit of public speaking, was at the Cork Alliance Centre conference, which is a charity that support people who have been in prison. That would have helped us all here today. And we all spoke at that conference and the president was there among others. So it's great to have you here, but it's mad how things is after evolving since then, isn't it?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Most
But
definitely.
do you want to bring us back, I suppose, for the people that don't know, and tell us where you're from, what it was like growing up for you?
Yeah. So I'm from Limerick City. I'm from the posh side of Limerick City, actually.
Is there a posh side in Limerick City?
Hey, look, I think so, you know, I think so. But like, I come from a place called Carbley. I had a good upbringing. I was never short of anything. No, to be honest, like I wasn't. My father, my mother were good, hard-working people. I have one brother, and you know, they were hard-working people and stuff like that. But I never felt a part of that family. Never from the get-go.
You know why?
Yeah, man. Because in the searching of the soul, like as things on in recovery, like I realised stuff. You know, I was clinically dead when I was 4, from an epileptic fit, and I was lucky that there was a doctor down the road that was able to be there. And when I vomited on my sick and I was in the isolation unit and stuff like that. Woke up with all the things around my chest, and looking back, man, I blame my parents for that. Why the fuck are you leaving me here? You know, I'm here on my own, and you know, thinking back in therapy, and like I became institutionalized later on in life and stuff like that, and I found out these golden nuggets to what the fuck why I was thinking this way, you know, and I suppose. Yeah, I have a big family, like relative-wise, you know. I think there was about 28 cousins and stuff like that. So I was always, they were good friends. They were my first kind of friends and stuff like that. And I suppose they became, over time, very successful people. Do you know what I mean? What they are and inspirational, you know.
Yeah. Inspirational,
but this inferior complex I live with, because I always compare myself to my brother. Always, you know. He got the most caps in AIL rugby. So he never made it to Munster. He always went to the end of the trial. So I was always competing for that attention all the time with my parents, right? And I suppose something happened when I was 13. My cousin Barbara, God rest her soul, took her life. And I suppose to the best of their knowledge, they thought it was best to tell me that she died from cancer. And I found out later, one of my friends said, Jesus, this is your cousin, whatever. And she said she took her life, you know what I mean? And at the time, it was an offence and all that kind of stuff. And it pushed me so far away from my family because I never trusted them. You know what I mean? That was a biggie thing for me. And I repelled and I repented. And I thought I'd never take tablets, you know, because I'm not going down that road now, you know what I mean? And I suppose I became addicted to anything to take me away from myself and what I was feeling. And I suppose the crowd that I grew up around, like I was the type of addict that would rob you and then help you go look for it. No, that's the kind of person I became. And like I said, and I still stand by it, like my parents done the best they can with what they had, you know what I mean? Because I'm also aware of generational stuff. that I actually took on as a kid as well, which isn't my place to take on. Yeah. And I didn't know that until later in my life. So...
What was it like in school?
In school, it was good, like talking about looking for attention. I can remember in primary school, I was a good kid, intelligent, like I liked school, and there was this opportunities that I started fighting in school, and I was getting attention. I loved the boys, and it was great. And after that, it came second year, just 13, 14, big change. I went to a rugby school, and it was good. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I went in. I had no interest in being there, to be honest. I had no interest. I lost all interest. Addiction had me by the gonads at that age, 13, 14.
What kind of drugs were you using at the time?
Solvents would have been my go-to. The reason why they wanted to go-to is because you couldn't smell them. You know, I couldn't smell the drink. You couldn't see that I was stoned from smoking the hash or back in the day. That's how long ago it was, and showing my age, you know. But sure, you know, and I never got close to anyone because of that incident, and I wasn't able to allow myself to get close to anyone because of that. I didn't trust no one, and found it very hard. You know, I used to drink and to get pumped out. You know. To extreme and like, you know, to be fair to my father, to give him credit, man, he picked me up in some states and brought me back, you know, and like the other side of it, I would have resented him from how he dealt with it. Do you know what I mean? Well, like that, I'm at peace with that all today, and I have a great relationship with him today because no matter what, he stuck by me. So did my mum.
Yeah.
You know
what did the drink do for you?
What did the drink do for me?
At that age?
The drink made me feel part of. The drink made me feel part of. It allowed me be myself. I was afraid to be myself. I didn't know who the fuck I was. You know, I didn't even know where I was going, what I was doing. You know, it filled up that vibe within myself, man. And it was just like I was doing mad stuff then to get the acceptance from the crowd, you know, drinking as much as I could and staying out. But for the finish, like, if I was to say moving on from that start in school, moving on to about third year, junior sort year, if I was drinking and I was caught, like, I was like fucked out, man. I was like, literally like, you're not coming in, you're the fucking, because I used to leave people walk all over me in the street, go back in and take it out with my family. Because I didn't know what to do, man. I didn't know how to verbalise it. I didn't have the capacity to be able to talk about it, that emotional. I didn't have it. That's, you know, I didn't feel it and stuff like that. So where I felt comfort was going to people that were caught up in addiction as well. They could identify with me. I could group together and learn that. And I suppose robbing was a big thing for me as well, to feed my addiction. My family thought, like, oh, well, if I don't give money, I won't go away and buy stuff. But sure, as you know yourselves, when you're in a fucking addiction, it doesn't matter by any means necessary. And I carried an awful lot of shame through school. Yeah, I was like, because I was in school, I was trying to make my way through addiction, and like, look, I apologise, and like, I held a lot of shame for that. You know, I apologise for that for anyone that's speaking, that's listening in, because I carried so much shame around that.
For robbing, is it? For
robbing, man. Because I know I wasn't brought up like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I wasn't brought up like that, and
must have been very difficult for your mother and father looking on.
Most definitely, man. They fucking killed them. My mother would say, I fucking just waiting for you to die. It'd be easier if you're dead. This is at fucking 15, 16 years old.
In Cork, if you said to somebody that you went to a rugby school, or chances are you're fairly wealthy. Is it like that in Limerick too?
100%. It is. And look,
it's like it's a privileged school.
I had a privileged fucking childhood, man. I know people on the journey of recovery that I've met, and like, you put your problems into the middle of a table, man. I'm the first one to take back my own. Do you know what I mean? Like, because like
good
that,
way of putting it, actually.
100%.
But it also shows as well doesn't happen to just fellas in council estates either.
No. And that's my kind of message here as well, James, because and most definitely it does happen, and like I'm in there, I'm on the ground in those places at the moment trying to support, but that's for later on in the podcast. But like for now, I suppose it does, like, and I thought I was the only fucking addict, man, at that age as well, because I actually ended up going to the support groups. A family intervention was made at 16, 17. They call it the 12-step, and they came out to the house, this woman, by fucking legend of a woman, came out, and I was going, how the fuck is this one an addict? Like, she doesn't, and I understood, like, it wasn't about what you take, or I got to know it wasn't about what you take, it's what it does. You know, it's not about the substance, it's how I react to the substance.
Yeah.
And got brought to an all meeting and went into treatment. I was in treatment twice by the time I was 18.
Where'd you go?
Ashling.
Oh, Tipperary.
Up at Tipperary. I was in there for my 18th birthday. And, I was only saying it the other night, like, at least I can remember my 18th birthdays, at the time, I was going, fuck this, man. I'm only meant to be starting to drink now. I'm not, if I go in here and tell people I'm an addict, then they leave me alone, I'll be able to use. So that's 18.
Did you go there because your parents kind of coerced you into going?
I didn't go there for myself anyway, James. I was kind of getting, because when I seen the blue lights with the guards, like, it triggered something in me. Like, I got diagnosed with ADHD at that time as well. So it triggered me to react, like I was talking about earlier, when looking for acceptance from the lads. I'd go mad and I'd fucking do something stupid and whatever, And at the time, I could relate inside in the treatment centres and stuff like that, but I was only beginning. To be
Very
honest.
difficult for an 18-year-old at that stage, isn't it? There's a lot of pain to happen before the penny drops.
We were only talking about coming down the road,
So, like, you're after being to treatment now already twice and you're 18, and we all know that drinking drugs block out our thinking, and even when we're not using, we're thinking about how we're going to get more money to be able to feed our habits. What was going on in your head even before the solvents came along to say that you were getting a bit of peace from drink, drugs and solvents? What was your head's, what kind of thoughts were you having about yourself and everybody around you?
Well, I hated myself, Timmy. I hated myself for actually taking the drugs. I didn't know how to say it. Any kind of woman that got close, a girl that got close to me, I pushed her away. Because also, I suppose, after my mum had me, she had a hysterectomy, right? Which I learned later on in life that if a woman has a hysterectomy, she goes directly into menopause. So then, therefore, which I also learned in counselling, later on in life and stuff like that. And I was actually able to have a chat with my mum to see how she was around it after it, you know what I mean? It was nice. There's a lot of healing happening. A lot of healing happening. But back to that kid, when that happened, I was looking to be connected and I was being rejected. So it was
going through her own stuff, like
going through her own stuff, James, and more stuff on top of that, more stuff that isn't my space to shit to talk about,
how did things progress?
They progressed
when you got out of treatment
really rapidly, James. I can remember coming back in, so there was an expectation. Father was always the kind of person that you need to go to fucking school, you need to go to college, you need to get a job, A, B, and C. I had no more interest in going to college. I wanted money to provide for what I was fucking dealing with.
Get stoned.
Get stoned, man. Black out. But at the time, I didn't think it, lads. Do you know what I mean? I didn't think that I was blacking out. I thought I was just being a part of the fucking my social norms. So went back in. went back in the day I was 18 in there. I can remember getting my 18th birthday. Went back. I was allowed to go back in because didn't want to be in school at third year. I got offered to go to do an apprenticeship. Good with my hands, you know what I mean? Craft of all trades, master and none. And I didn't do a leaving cert, walked out. I said, fuck this, I'm not. And lo and behold, I was in a hostel a couple of weeks later. Thought I wasn't hurting anyone. You know, I thought like, no, I'm away from my family. You know, and I have to mention as well, like, my brother fucking suffered a lot as well, because a lot of the attention was on me growing up. They're addict, like, in the family system. And my brother had to survive without no attention on it, you know. And that, I know, has to be hard. Because I was so self-centered, making it all about me. You know, and to the very end, actually, to be honest. And I suppose after I got home, I was drinking with people 3 or 4 times the fucking age of me, and I was kind of going, not hurting no one, you know, not hurting no one. But soon I got like on probation and you know, mediocre fucking charges and all that stupid fucking charges. You know?
Do you know while you were in the hostel?
Yeah.
Right, when you're in the hostel, like, you're open to every fucking drug. But when you're around your peers, you're only dabbling with the old fucking fewies, the coke. But when you're in the hostel, you're with people who are on the streets and they're at everything, you know, across the board. So, like, did everything start coming into your life at a young age while you were in the hostel?
20 years ago to me, I would have been in the hostel first, like, you know. So it was like, I would have taken anything. I was open to anything, like, just get me away from what I was feeling. Because I didn't know how to talk, I didn't know how to communicate. I wasn't a part of it, because, like, I wasn't a part of any group. Do you know what I mean? I was a part of, I know when you got paid, so I'd be able to be around you then, like, you know. And that's the kind of way I was rolling for a while. I went into another treatment centre then in 2004, a 30-day program, Minnesota model, and I was in there to get out of jail, man, to be honest. I was, but don't get me wrong, I got something from it. I mean, like, I got something from the adolescent program. I learned something from it. Like, and like they're talking about in the here and now, like recovery capital and stuff like that. I gained some recovery capital in them places because the other word is a sobriety sampling. So I was able to stay away from abstinent for a certain block of time. Yeah. And I was, they call it in the rooms, the 30-day wonder. I used to pick up the bags, the badges. I go, how do I graduate out? How do I manipulate my way through this system to get out and go back to what we're using? Do you know what I mean? And
will you explain recovery capital for us?
I'll try my best anyway, James. Yeah. So recovery capital is, so like in the National Drug Strategy, right? Especially it's 2017 to 23,
25,
20, yeah.
Groups and harm support in recovery.
Yes, so it was really focusing around recovery supports, right? And back then, and still to this day, it is getting better. Yeah. But back then there was very little supports for people that would have come out of treatment and would reintegrate back into society. You know, very little halfway houses. No, like the likes of Box and Clever. I know you had Mark on. And there's Box and Clever after starting up in the Midwest now. And
I actually gave a talk up there, remember?
Yes.
When they graduated, they invited me up to Limerick to the hotel to give a talk. But the recovery capital is like how a person can successfully recover and the different parts of it. So social capital, the connections you make with people, so that can be through a fellowship, like an NA, Smart Recovery. The cultural capital, what your life is like, what kind of culture are you around, like the people, places and things, like are you around pairs that are good for you, where there's a natural culture of employment and education, you know, the human capital then, you know, and like how's your health and stuff like that. But all these things contribute to like a good solid recovery. Whereas if you have the culture, if you have the social capital, and this is a good one, the fellas are with all the women and they're drinking coffee in every coffee shop in Cork, Limerick, but then they're neglecting like the other stuff, you know. They're more vulnerable to relapse, whereas recovery capital is a more holistic kind of view of recovery, you know.
Yes.
And you know, I thought that it was worth explaining for
Excuse me.
people that might be starting out in their recovery journey or wanting to kind of learn a little bit more. So. And it's good what you said as well, because there's no such thing as a wasted treatment.
No.
Because you learn stuff along the way. Little nuggets are planted, little seeds are planted until you get mature enough to kind of tap into it, you know?
Yeah, it's like when you're in treatment and you come out of treatment back then, you don't know the benefit of it. But when you look back now, you can understand the benefit of it.
Yes.
It's like looking at somebody who's been in and out of prison all their lives. And prison has been the one thing that has given them the bit of respite away from the streets and the addiction. And every time they go into prison, they build themselves back up, they do a bit of exercise, and they get healthy and they're away from drugs. Without that in their lives, without prison in their lives, they were probably dying because of the abuse they were putting into their bodies. So, like what you're saying is very important. You know, it's not that it's for no good. There is a massive benefit even getting treatment at a young age, and I can relate to treatment at a young age. I would have been to 2 treatment centres before I was even 18. I would have spent my 18th birthday in treatment, and it's a tough thing because you're looking at all the 18-year-olds waiting till they're 18 to get their passport and go in town and go for the legal first drink. You miss out on all that. You know, you miss out on all that. But how did it continue from there, Brian, after that treatment? Because that treatment said it sounds like you were just after getting a little bit of insight maybe into addiction.
I did. I got introduced to the the Minnesota model. For anyone that doesn't know, like, is the first 5 steps of the AAR Fellowship, you know. And
Which was a 28-day program.
Yes, 28-day program. But my friend, obviously, all that can happen in 28 days, the sun will revolve around the moon, you know. Because I know it's an intense program and all that, and hats off. But like foundation, like 2 years, they give suggestions in the first 2 years of recovery for very good reason. Like my biggest downfall was women, like, in early recovery before, you know, I'd fall in love with the chairman.
Yeah.
No, I would. When get the feelings back.
What you're saying, you know,
The legs and the chair.
Oh, man. I tell you.
and it's a very, very big thing in recovery for both men and women is the cross addiction. They fill that void where when we stop drinking and drugging, we're left with the head.
Yes.
But if you're going away at chasing a man or a woman, like your thinking is occupied around that now, so you're still escaping the head.
Looking for something external outside of you to fill the void.
Fill the void. It's just substituting, really, you know. Later on, reflecting back on it, you know. And look, at the end of the day, I done the best I could with what the awareness that I had at the time. You know what I mean? And like, it's all learning. You know, it's all nothing is lost on this journey we call life. You know, it's not, you know, and stuff like that. So, like, back to what you were saying about where did it go after that? So that's 2004. We're in fucking 23. There's a few years to cover. So, you know, usually I have 15 minutes to sum up this within an all chair, like, but at least I have the space tonight to kind of explore it.
Yeah.
And it's a privilege, like I said earlier on. So after that, I knew drugs is the problem. No, I says, fuck that. Every time I pick up drugs, I go on a mad binge and consequences happen. So I stopped taking drugs, started drinking. And I can remember how devious and how much denial I was in. I was going to my aftercare each week. And the only time I wasn't getting checked was the night I was coming home from aftercare. So that was the night I was drinking again. Fuck it. To get it into me in the way back. You know, and that's for me when I started to become problematic. You know, started to get a bit more dependent. You know, I was moving away from problematic and moving into dependent. You know, that I needed something. Even though I can remember going to meetings, bringing a joint with me. in the car and bringing it back after the meeting. And to be honest, I got there. It gave me a break for the hour. You know, the only requirement for a membership in a fellowship is a desire. Is that you don't have to be stopped. You only want it. You only need to want it. You know, so they're important nuggets for people as well, because people think like that. Because like another thing as well, that abstinence is one form of recovery. Like, you know, there's people that are living quality lives that like recovery is even exclusion in itself now, because like who's to say one's recovery has to be the same as another?
We got a letter one time off somebody from Kerry, but they were saying that they were in the fellowship now years and years, like, but that we were diluting the message of recovery and stuff like that. But like, and we respect them where they come from, because obviously they feel very attached to the program they're on and stuff like that. But like, we have to respect other people then. And if methadone is a part of their story and they're still living a quality life or a medication or something, and they're still in a better place than they were, they're recovering too. And maybe they mightn't get the abstinence that we have, but if they're in a better quality life, they can look after their kids or go to work. Sure, do you know what I mean? That's they're recovering. It's on a continuum, you know. It's on a scale.
You said it, James. Improve one's quality of life.
Yeah, and that was what we wanted.
It's all that anyone wants, you know.
Yeah.
It really is, you know. And I suppose I also learned after that Minnesota model that, right, I can go away to the bitter ends and build myself back up when I got the treatment. So I started to do go to the bitter ends, come back. I was in Convera 3 times as well.
Rory?
Yeah, so I done the program once. And the other 2 times I was just in there for the detox and tried to get better, and I'd
What
love.
kind of drugs we on at this stage, you know, bro? And drink.
So the first 2 times I was the ease, the coke, the tablets and the drink. And the last time before I got in there, I can remember I thought there was something more wrong than me than just being an addict.
Yeah.
And it becomes a lonely fucking journey in them places. Kind of really like, and that's where I started to see what my capabilities are. Right, Brian, you're here on your own. And I don't forget people who were there for me in them kind of times, do you know what I mean? And I suppose I was told by the psychiatrist, you're never going to be able to come off this medication. But sure, I've that mind where I'm going to go, okay, if I keep getting more medication, I'm going to get more affected from it. Because if I still do A, B, and C, I'll be able to get more affected from it. I went around like a zombie, man. You know, and look, at that time, was I displaying symptoms of bipolar? Maybe I was. Was I displaying symptoms of depression? Maybe I was. But who has the right to make that call in one person's life? Like,
What age, yeah?
age, about 23, 24, I'd say. About 23.
How long were you in the
24.
institution for?
All in all, I was in there for 12 months.
Fuck it, that's a long time.
It's a long
What
time.
was it
to
like
be-
in there?
There was people in there, James, that were going on medication to come off medication.
You're only 23 now, right? You're after doing a lot of time in institutions already, like 4 or 5 like between Rory 3 times,
Yeah.
the Ashling, and there was 2 as a young fella, the Rory 3 times, now 12 months here. You're only 23, that's a long time. You're becoming institutionalised a little bit.
Most definitely, man.
I'm looking at your face here. You're all demeanour, like, do you feel a bit of compassion for that person?
Yeah, man. I love that person, I mean. I do, man. Do you know, I've done a lot of work on myself. I feel emotional, I feel raw, but you know what, man, I feel human. Do you know what I mean? It's this is my life. A few of my friends, like, I know that I said that I kind of pulled away from a lot of people, But a few people, like, I would have stayed in contact. And I go, Brian, why don't you write a book, like? Kind of going, nah, maybe a thesis or maybe a fucking, you know, a mass or whatever. But, like, I don't know, man. And I said it earlier on the podcast, it's not about social status. It really fucking isn't, man. It's about
Passing on your fucking stuff.
passing on my story, man. Because, like, how many people are caught up in institutions at the moment and being shut up by medication? And I'm not here saying that there isn't a need for medication.
It's helpful for some.
Most definitely, James.
Do you think you were written off with the medication at a young age? Or do you think it was what you needed at the time?
I do believe that there was a need for me to take it at the time. I genuinely do.
Did you lose yourself?
I didn't want to be here, man.
I know that.
know?
But even though you still didn't want to be here, okay, you still felt things. You still felt emotions. You still fucking noticed the mad head, and that's consciousness. Even though you're unaware of it, we still feel it. But when you're heavily medicated, it's like a different. What the fuck is going on? Who am I? Like, I'm not feeling all the madness anymore. This isn't real. Like, all this stuff is blocking over everything. So it's like it's like, I don't know what's that phrase, like it's not that you're stuck in limbo. It's like covering one thing with something else. You know, you're gone from where you're struggling with your mental health and you can't cope with your emotional state and you and the thoughts that are going in your head, but then you're put on heavily dosed with meds, and it's like you're missing this part of yourself that you can actually feel, and you're not liking this in where you feel because you know it's not real, and there's a bit of conflict then, you know, and I know that because of my own situation, you know.
Yes.
I didn't feel like myself anymore, even though this was supposed to be helping me, but I actually felt I needed to go back to this tough place where I was really, really in a bad place, and my head was mad, but it was real. This wasn't real because I wasn't myself. If this madness here felt more like myself, where the head was mad and I was feeling all these powerful emotions like fear, shame, and guilt and everything else, but it was my reality, and I knew I was going to grow back here if I was able to accept my situation and feel it. You know, so I decided to go back here, but I used the kind of practical things like the meditation, you know, the therapy. No, I'm not saying somebody that's on medication should stop. Go to your doctor or whatever. I went to my doctor and I stopped. But was that a similar kind of way you felt?
So I can remember. I'm glad you started speaking because I was able to think what I was trying to reflect back what was happening after that. I can remember I came back to Limerick and a gentleman gave me an opportunity as a trade, doing a mechanics trade, and I was doing well for some time, and I enjoyed the trade, and like a fucking jack of all trades, you know what I mean? I taught my hand-to-hand thing and stuff like that, and really enjoyed it. But I can remember I was able to manage the drugs, right? But anytime I drank, then my parents were fucking, shit, he's back at it. And it fucked me out. So I can remember being in phase 2 in the trade. I was sleeping rough. I was sleeping in the building site, fiberglass over me, going to my trade every day, washing myself in the sink, right? Has anything like that happened since my addiction has stopped? No, it hasn't. So, you know, leave that. I do, and that's how we met.
Yeah.
First was that piece of the spent convictions. You know, it's a fucking taboo subject.
Yeah.
You know, and
Did you go to Cork prison or Limerick prison?
No, Limerick prison.
And did you come to Cork then when you got out?
I went to Dunbrody. I went to Cork, done another half a house in Cork.
Yeah.
And
stayed
9 months clean. I thought I had the world solved, man. I knew everything what was going on, right? And I can remember the owner of the boss came in, you know, the way you give your good best look speech. He goes, Brian, you haven't changed one bit. Just go up to us, what you mean? I said, I'm 9 months clean, you know, all this kind of bravado and ego and all that kind of stuff. And he goes, if you don't change, you're going to fall flat in your face And today I'm grateful for him to be able to say
If
it.
you're honest feedback, like,
100%, James.
Yeah.
You know.
and did you fall flat in your face?
I did.
Did you stay in Cork?
I did, and the drugs changed.
What kind of drugs were you using?
The tablets, and I can remember I started into heroin, and it was great. Loved it.
James, you always explain heroin hasn't been wrapped in a cuddly blanket.
Nice, isn't it? It is like we were up Dublin there a couple of weeks ago, and we see the addiction up there. People goofed off down alleyways, down steps. But as bad as it looks, they've never felt better because everything is blocked out, isn't it? And all the shit that's going on for you, it just blocks. It just numbs you.
And my friend of mine, still always says it like, it's like the hug your mother never gave you. You know, because it does give it to you, and like.
What was your life like when you got strung out in the gear?
I was in and out. So I went to another treatment centre. I was jumping between the treatment centre out in Blarney and into the
nuns.
Yeah, and St Vincent's Hostel. And like I was only telling Graham on the way down, like I've more addresses in Cork City than I do in Limerick, like. You know, I lived in Grattan Hill, lived in I lived only around the corner from here actually as well. Lived in Ballincollig, lived in Toker, lived in Turner's Cross. I can see where you went wrong. You were always on the south side. You should have come up the north side with it looking after you. But you know what, James? I did go up the north side, and I also, I suppose, when I was down here, I can remember I was engaging with the services, and I remember that my probation officer at the time, Maria, I think her name was.
I actually know Maria, yeah.
Maria Walsh.
Maria Walsh, that's who it was, no?
Mine as well. For a bit.
And I can remember going up there, right? And she says, well, who are you? And coming from a place where I was institutionalized, Brian, I'm an addict. She goes, what? What else are you like? What do you like?
Yeah.
Who are you? I didn't have a fucking clue, man. Didn't know who I was, didn't know what I liked, didn't know, what I was into, what I wasn't into.
What colour you liked?
Colours, man.
Music you liked?
I didn't know I was entitled to all that kind of stuff. And I can remember I was linked in with God, the Lions head, man. They were like my family down here in Cork, to be honest. They give them a shout out. They were like, yourselves, you've engaged with them. And I suppose I was always to be there. I wasn't judged. Do you know what? I wasn't judged. I used to go in there and go in there as best I could. And I went to Max Sweeney College up in Northside as well.
Towns Max Sweeney.
Yeah. I was saying to Brian there as well before the podcast, I'd done a coaching course up there in rugby because to be honest, I was handy at the rugby, man, to be fair. I was up against a few internationals and stuff in school, but holding on an addiction, I suppose, it was hard, like, but
how do you know when you're in Cork and you're strung out in the gear and you're moving around, like what was the turning point? How did it come to a head?
Right, how it came to a head, man, I was fucking. It was 2013, right? My mother was after getting diagnosed with cancer. My father was. Two of them. My mother got diagnosed with cancer, and shortly after, from the stress of me being self-centered, my father. Not only me, but I know that I did have a huge impact. But how self-centered I was, I can remember him coming down to Cork because she got her treatment down in Cork because it was the breast clinic or just around the corner. I couldn't make it to meet her because I had to go in and get myself sorted before I met her and stuff like that. It needed to score, but like I suppose I was a poly drug user, so I wasn't. And I picked up all this kind of language. A poly drug user is when I was open to anything. To take me away from the pain I was feeling.
It wasn't just one specific drug.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely everything. Alcohol
and I thought, if I only take heroin for 2 days, and I only take coke for 2 days, and I only drink for 2 days, I'm only a recreational user. I didn't think of
mad how they said this, isn't it?
Mad.
I didn't think I was an addict either, or an alcoholic, because my binges were 2-3 week binges where I'd be flat out. And then I'd be given the ultimatum to stop for 3 or 4 weeks to get back into the house, so I'd have a roof over my head. And I thought I wasn't an addict either over the same stuff. You know, it's mad how our thinking can bring in denial.
So I can remember that, right? With when my mum was diagnosed with a cancer, and I goes, man, I have to stop making it about me. There's people that fucking love the bones of me, man, and they're fucking dying in front of my eyes. What do I like? I need to do something here. I was down. It was the 17th of December last time. I had my first drink was 2 cans of Norries, right? And my last drink was a can of Linden Village. I was a canaholic. I wasn't an alcoholic, you know what I mean? I never got to the bars. I always drank down the fucking back streets. I never experienced I never had a drink with my father, my mother, or my brother. Like that, there's a lot of lost down, man, around that kind of stuff.
You were never invited to parties, you never went to weddings.
Nah, man. I'm getting invited to there, to me. Do you know what I mean?
So am I.
Do you know what I mean? And it's good, you know, and it's good. And then, you know, it's. I suppose we're the turning point for me, James, because I know that we're fucking rambling, but it's my story, and I suppose it's important to give myself that time to explain it, because I deserve the time. You know, it's cost me enough. It's cost me and my loved ones enough for me to sit down to share my experience.
But when you met your mum, your father's unwell, your mum's unwell, you couldn't make it meet her. There was a lot of guilt. The penny was dropping. What did you do?
So, Jayla made an intervention with me. I was in an apartment over the other side of the river. I thought it was grand, man. I thought it was all right. I was going to counselling once a week. But there was pins all around me, like. I thought, I didn't see it, man. I was delusional. I was blinded by it. And she gave me the alternative, because I thought I was so self-righteous, because that comes with addiction and ignorance and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't pay my rent. So she said, you have 2 choices. You can go back to the hostel and be blacklisted with the rent allowance, or you can ring a treatment centre and go in. So I said, right, I didn't think I was going to get it, lads. I thought I was beyond the help, because all the times I've been in there. So I rang. It took me 3 months to get into that place. And I was going from the hostel. I stopped drinking in the hostel. I stopped using heroin in the hostel. I can remember being in the doctor's clinic, and he's saying, right, give me your 3 urines now and I'll put you on the methadone. I says, look, doc, give me 1 more day, will you? I'm after fucking standing off it now for fucking 2 days. If I don't get off it, I'll be back, Joe, next week. And touch wood, man, I haven't touched it today. But like I was saying to you before the podcast, to me, I smelt it today.
Yeah.
And it smells as good today as it did when I left it.
That's because it's not the smell you're attracted to, it's the feeling.
100%.
It's the feeling that it will give you. And when I say the feeling, it's lack of feeling anything.
But the smell triggers that then.
Yeah.
It does, but I'm also aware that it's just a feeling. Do you know, it's just a feeling. And I suppose that's, when I went to Dublin, I started to emotionally regulate myself, and I thought I made the wrong choice, because I went in, it was like an open prison. So it was me revisiting all my past stuff.
When you went to Dublin, when you went to
Dublin,
time.
and coal mine went up.
Oh yeah.
And I was blessed for the time that the workers were there, man. The people that were there, I shared some of the best experience of my life. So. And I'd stay at our cliques, because you know yourself in treatment centres, there's cliques, there's bravado, there's ego, there's prison, all that kind of stuff, and there's different intentions. And so be it. It doesn't matter why you're going to treatment, why you stay there is the real reason.
Yeah.
So I got to know myself, got to know my rage, got to know that it wasn't rage, it was hurt. And I had to go back on medication there as well. I had a nervous breakdown. And
you had a nervous breakdown.
A nervous breakdown.
What did that involve? That nervous breakdown?
Is that a bipolar episode, or is it like explain like a nervous breakdown to us?
Sorry. So I actually had to come off all that medication. That being on that medication nearly stopped me going into coal mine. And at the time, there was a big report out on the same institution about giving psychiatric medication to patients with, like, fucking wrongly, right?
Yeah.
That stopped me from going into treatment. And if it was only for certain individuals up in that organisation that took the chance with me. Because I had to come off it to go to Norries as well before I came to Cork a couple of years before.
Because it's a dual diagnosis case,
diagnosis,
which
James.
is mental health and addiction.
Yes.
And they work in silos. And if you have both, you're kind of snookered for a long time.
Very much
But
so.
aren't they so kind of like...
They can't be disconnected, like.
Yeah,
But a lot of treatment centres won't take people on psychiatric
won't.
medication.
And
so you
even-
had to come off the medication to go into treatment.
I had to go off the medication to go into treatment.
And you had an episode in there.
I had an episode in there, and I was lucky enough where I was at myself. I had a good doctor down here in Cork as well that fucking gave me the time of day and actually listened to what I was saying. And I hope he's listening. I forget his name, but he was a fucking gentleman, and I had a good relationship with him. And I haven't had good relationships with doctors because like lack of education, just put it like that, like lack of education. But I have come across some good doctors, and there was another good doctor up at Dublin at the time, and I can remember I went on that medication, and I suppose we speak about recovery, and it's about being honest with oneself and being genuine and kind of where it's at. So I said, look, I'll go on this mood stabiliser for a certain amount of time, and it'll be, I want to come off it though eventually. And she said, that's cool, no problem. So I did, when I needed to, and I respected that because I know I don't need to play the hero anymore. Look at me, I'm a staunch addict, you know what I mean? I don't even call myself an addict no more when I identify myself when I attend a meeting. And I don't need to. I know exactly who and what I am and what I had been and where I've come from.
Drunk are a great example of not giving up. And if one thing don't work, trying something else and trying it again and keep going and not giving up.
And just to reaffirm what James is after saying there, like, how many treatment centres we in until this says time? Is it 5, 6, 7?
And a few times, man, because I suppose I would have stepped in these places a few times then as well, so I lost count, man.
A lot, anyway.
Do you know what? That's just to say, don't ever give up.
No,
Don't ever give
absolutely
up.
no.
Doesn't matter if you don't get it the first, second, third, fourth time.
No.
When you get it, you get it.
Yeah.
And you'll only know then. But every single time it helps you to get in your
And I started pushing myself out of the comfort zone, man. I can remember being up in after the program, right? When I learned how to deal with my emotions, I had to start doing things differently. I can remember like someone up there, and because I haven't mentioned, I'm actually proud of myself. I haven't mentioned drop names because I fucking no way, because I know a handful of people, let's say, and I don't want to name them. Do you know what I mean? But the people that it's all good. But what I can remember, I had to look at what I was going to do to me, because if you think about like it's all about making money and social capital and stuff like that. But like, to make money all my life, I manipulated. So I needed to look at something. What do I need to center myself in this and stay steady in my life and actually progress in a career that I know about? And I suppose I have a lot of hours in counselling rooms, put it that way, and I've learned a lot from people I've come across with.
Through the harness, the lived experience that you have done through the years.
And also the stuff that professionals have taught me.
Did you go to college?
I went to Liberties after that to do the social studies, right? And I walked into Trinity, man, thinking it was Liberties. first day of college. What then?
What's Liberty's like a college?
Liberty's a VTech 5 college, right?
Yeah, further education.
And Trinity would be...
Third level.
Yeah, third level, right? So man, because here, I'm starting college today, you know what I mean? I put on my glad rags, I was fucking feeling 100%. Because, you sure, like, you're starting here? I goes, yeah, man, social studies. They said, no, that is down the road, down Liberties. But I really enjoyed it, man. You know, I really enjoyed it. I got into a relationship after 2 years. Suggest a thing. They were a downfall of mine. She was from down the country, right? And in recovery, and I decided to go to UL, University of Limerick, and I went
Study what?
to study the addiction studies.
Yeah.
Because I know a bit about it. I didn't feel like I was losing. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a big ask to someone to ask to come away from what you've to be doing all your life. You know, it's a big ask. So went in there. It was a miracle I was even showing up. Do you know what I mean? I was kind of like, because I got marks in the VTech, but when I got there, I didn't really give a shit about the marks. I was kind of going, it's a miracle I'm here. Like, academically, I wasn't academic at the time.
But did you get through the course?
Got through the course, man. Got through the course.
Did you start working in the services?
Started volunteering, James. Started volunteering in Limerick, in adolescent addiction treatment centre. And I never thought I'd work with young fellas, like, you know what I mean? And it was great. And I started enjoying what I was doing. And then, like we were talking before the podcast, Tim, about I was still doing a landscaping business on the side because volunteering doesn't pay, and kept persistent, man. I was saying, I got offered jobs, went for interview, was offered a job, and actually rang me back and said, actually, no, you have to come in, you're vetting. Not there, not happy. So I actually rang the superintendent because it was a Garda diversion project. And it's funny how the universe works, right? Because I rang the superintendent and goes, what's the point story, man? I'm after one change in my life. Do you know? Oh, well, it's a discretional thing. You know, it's down to the organisation and stuff like that. So I says, oh, fuck that, no one needs to take a step back from this. Because early recovery, you know, the relationship had subsided. That it didn't work out. I was renting. I got an apartment. I was renting a granny flat, and I went for an interview with another probation organisation, right? And I got the job, you know what I mean? And they gave me an opportunity, and they didn't fucking penalise me for that part of my life. Yeah. And because they'd mentioned it, said, was that a part of your addiction? Yeah, it was. Okay, we can leave that there and box that off. Because they understood it was restorative practice at its fucking best.
That was me. Yeah. That's like,
do you know?
That's how it should be for everybody.
They get, like, why? Do you know? It's the people don't realise how hard we work. Like,
do you want to leave that organisation out of the conversation, or do you think they should be notified?
Do you know what, man? I won't, because I'm trying not to. Yeah. Do you know? I'm trying not to. They know when they listen, they'll know who they are. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I think they should be held up and praised for the way that they actually
100%.
And that,
you know,
that's my 2 pence on it.
What's your life like today, Brian?
So my life like today, man, I'm a homeowner today, James, yeah? I'm a homeowner, man, know what I mean? And I'm in a healthy relationship, probably the healthiest relationship I've been in. Nothing got to do with addiction. Enjoying it. I'm working in a new service now, harm reduction service, low threshold service. Really thoroughly enjoying it. Like it's. I never thought I could work what I'm working in, because of the fucking. You know, my experience, but like that, I don't see the substance, man. I see the pain. I look past it. I look past the substance, see the pain, because that's all it was for me, man. It was holding my pain together for me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thoroughly enjoying, like, I can be myself in work, James.
Yeah. You're not trying to hide your past.
Absolutely not, man. I'm an open book, like,
Yeah,
and like, in saying,
anyway, after this.
yeah, but sure, look, but in saying that, like, that organisation had the same attitude.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because people realise that people do well.
Yeah, you have the capacity to change.
You know,
They also understand the importance of putting somebody with lived experience into the position you're in today, because they knew how that would benefit people that are going to use the service, and I think that's very important as well to mention.
Yeah. Before we wrap it up, have you any advice for somebody maybe that's going in and out of institutions, be they psychiatric, prisons, addiction, and feel like that they're never going to get it?
so yeah, look, I always say it, man. I don't give advice. I don't tell anyone how to live their life. But what I would suggest is that there is services around. There's more services now than there ever was. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to start link. Don't do it. You can do it on your own, but you don't have to do it on your own.
It's okay to ask for help.
100%, man. Yeah. And keep asking for it. I still need as much support today as I had the first day.
Because the difference from you not asking for help and asking for help is possibly whether you live or die.
Yeah.
Man, life and death to me, simple as that.
And if people want to know, I suppose, what services is in their area, they can drop us an email, info@norries.com.
And even up in the Midwest there as well, man. We get the details in and
we can signpost people.
Signpost, because there's a lot more organisations now than there ever was.
Yeah.
You know.
Pleasure talking to you, Brian.
Likewise,
Thanks
man.
a million for your time. Thanks for sharing.
Nice one.
And
Thank
you know, it was a pleasure and great to see you doing well. And sure, we'll reconnect down the line.
Thanks.
Nice one, yeah.
Thanks a million, boys.
God bless, Pat.
Well done, boy.
Nice one. Sound.